Hello and welcome to the Power Couple podcast, where we get to listen to love stories and learn about relationships. Today, our guests are Max Thibault and Karis. Thank you both so much for being here. Appreciate it a lot. I'd like to first and foremost pay homage to the traditional territory of the Algonquin people that I'm currently broadcasting from. And I'd also like to thank the Creator for all things to align for us to be here today. I definitely wanted to give thanks. And I'd like to introduce Karis. I think it's fair to say that she is a multidisciplinary artist, painter, carver. Her father is a very well-known carver in the community. She is a beater, model, and actress. Max is also an artist, and he's an actor, writer, director, and producer. Thank you both again for being here. I'm really excited for this conversation.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, happy to be here.
So first, I also wanted to give you a chance so that you can introduce yourselves in your own way. Let us know where you were born and a little bit of your family history.
Cool. Karis Gruben, born in Alberta, but my whole family is from Tuktoyaktuk, Northwest Territories. I grew up for the first part of my childhood here in Ottawa for like the first 6 years, and then we all moved back up to Inuvik, where I spent all of my schooling there, kindergarten to grade 12. So I was there about 13 years, and then I moved back to Ottawa on my own in 2010. I've always done artwork on the side, sold pieces here and there, but I am getting a lot more traction in that part of my life these days. I can give a little bit of credit to him. He's my probably biggest fan and supporter and promoter. That's the gist of me, yeah.
Okay, I'm Maxime Thibault. I'm born and raised in Gatineau on the other Quebec side of the Ottawa-Gatineau region. I was born here, spent my whole life here. I was a regular, normal, suburban French kid from, middle-class family, both working parents, both self-made people with a lot of determination, a lot of politics talked at the table, a lot of discussions, a lot like a true French Canadian Irish Catholic background. I do have Abenaki blood in me. My great grandmother was Anishinaabe. I grew up here, and then as a kid I always drew. I was very artistic, but I was never really encouraged because nobody in my family really did this stuff. And then I discovered guitars and loud music. And when I was about 10, one friend of mine was really into the new metal stuff that was coming out. And I was looking for something else other than Dragon Ball Z in my life and basketball. So I got really into music. And then from there on, it was I want to be in bands. So I came to the Ottawa side and met a bunch of guys that were older than me. I started going to shows where it was 20 kids underaged at 4 p.m. shows, because that's all bars could really do for all age shows. And then I got into the music scene, got into heavy metal, became a musician, started touring, met all kinds of people, traveled, and I did that till I was 22. And then I quit everything, went to school. I met Karis, I was 25, done all kinds of jobs, all kinds of things. I ended up after university, I graduated university at 22. I ended up working on Parliament Hill for the NDP, which was a great job, a slingshot type of job. I was a staffer there. And then I started working for labor unions on top of doing all that type of work. And I've been in labor unions ever since then. And now I'm 32. But on top of doing that work, I was always really interested in acting. I was always writing stuff and wanting to be in movies or making my own films. Ever since then, I've been doing theater, film. I've been in bigger productions. I've been in very small productions, just I've been in bigger Hollywood productions shot in Montreal. Ever since I met Karis, I've started painting. So I've kind of gone back to my early talents, I guess, as a kid, where I would draw a lot before I discovered guitars and girls, basically. And yeah, I'm just on my own path. I'm multidisciplinary. And yeah, I can say that definitely since Karis and I have been together, which is, I don't even know how many years now. It's like funny. Things have like skyrocketed. Like, it's just when you have a partner that's supportive, it really does change things.
That's amazing. I appreciate you both sharing that. And I think, when you're both reflecting and sharing your bios in a way, I think that's an inspiring piece to hear you share how your partnership has helped kind of inspire each other to explore other artistic outlets. I think that's an important factor that honestly I'm noticing as a common thread between these conversations with couples, is that they support each other in what they do. And that's an important element in building a healthy relationship. So I really wanted to just point that out. That's awesome. And before we dive too deep, how are you both doing through these COVID times?
Well, the world is kind of shitty.
Yeah.
But
we can't complain too much. We're both working from home. So
we have to learn to deal with that, being around each other.
1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, we live in a big 1-bedroom apartment in Hindenburg, and it's our like sanctuary. It's like you can see there's like stuff on the walls here. It's, and we're around our dog every day now, like all day. I don't know. Like, we've been lucky enough to both, like, work has been steady if not increasing. So we can't complain or anything. Few changes. We're going to be moving up north. I got a promotion with my job, so we're going to be moving to Yellowknife in the new year.
Wow.
I guess by the time this comes up, we'll already be up there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've both kind of, talked a little bit about your backgrounds and stuff like that, but I was kind of interested into learning a little bit more about the why. Like, why, Karis, did you choose to pursue art, modeling, and acting? And like, what are some of your career aspirations around those goals?
Like I said earlier, I've been doing art pretty much all of my life. My dad was a carver since I can remember. So I grew up around him playing with stone and ivory and coming home to the oven turned on, and I'm asking, what's for dinner? And he's like, go check. So I open it and it's a carving in there. He's like, stone soup. And he's warming it up so he can polish it.
Wow.
Playful, artistic growing up, which was very nice. And I'm very much a perfectionist. So me doing my art, I don't like to show it until things are complete or as close to completion as I can be, which it also backfires a lot. Acting and modeling, though, I would give not credit, but growing up in it. Sorry, our dog's acting. He's got to zoom in. Modeling, growing up in a small town, being tall and skinny, everyone just told me, you should be a model, you should be a model. And I just thought that's something people said. So when I moved to the South, back when I was 19, I was at a Sephora where someone came up to me and said, oh, you should be a model. I'm like, oh, a city person says it, it must be real. I never ever did anything with that until I was 22. I went to see an agency and I'm like, you know what? I had just gotten out of a relationship and I'm like, I need a confidence boost. I need something to do. So I went there and then didn't do too much with the agency, but I met a lot of contacts, and that just seems to be the way that things work for me, is through word of mouth, meeting people. And then acting, I'll give credit to Max here because he was the one who wanted to be an actor when we met. So I was like, yeah, totally, that's cool. But I never thought it would be something for me because I'm not a huge fan of the sound of my own voice, seeing myself on the screen, but helping him rehearse his lines, helping him go through things, I can see where all the passion comes from and the excitement. And then we had another friend who had an idea for a short film, and she asked me if I wanted to be that lead. That project didn't end up happening, but she ended up having another project where I could be the lead. And it was the film that just recently got posted online. It's called Yawisto, meaning the cold. Just so happens it's about people surviving a pandemic.
But shot before the pandemic.
But shot before all this
Wow.
happened.
Yeah.
Max is also in that movie. But yeah, without Max, I don't think I would have pushed farther into the acting side of being in front of a camera.
Wow.
Yeah. I think you need a push. You need some time. Like there's some people that are, I mean, I don't want to categorize everybody, but there comes to be like an acknowledgement of what you want to do and then doing it. And by doing it, you become it, right? Say, whether it be modeling, painting, whether it acting, there's a decision that's made or a want or a need, and then you go for it. And sometimes people will like literally put it in front of you and say, hey, do you want to do this? And then it's up to you to say yes or no and take the jump. Never mind the fear and all that. I was really happy to see Karis was interested in acting because you've been approached a few times at that since like when we shot that movie in February, but you've been approached a few times by like other Indigenous artists or filmmakers about shooting stuff.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of times it was in like Sudbury or it was like Unpaid in Toronto or yeah.
Interesting.
No, that's sorry, I'm gonna cut you off.
It's all good.
One of my more exciting acting gigs that didn't end up panning out because it happened during the week and I work, was I was going to be playing a young Alyssa P. Isaac.
Wow.
Did we share a somewhat resemblance? So maybe someday in the future.
Damn, that's so fascinating. So just transitioning to Max, you know, you've been pursuing filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
You released your first short back in October 2019, Top Hat.
Yeah.
Why is film a passion of yours, and what inspired you to start producing?
That's a good question. I'm glad you watched that. That was a trip and a personal challenge that I put to myself.
Nice.
So why am I into filmmaking? Why am I going into that? I've always been a fan of film. Like me and my brother and my neighbors growing up. We had my dad's old like VHS, you know, those ones like you put a tape in it and you film.
Right.
We had one of those growing up. Like my dad wasn't using it anymore. He used to use it really when we were small and we were cute. And then we were just like young, older kids and not yet teenagers, but we were just like ugly looking. So he stopped filming us and because we'd swear all the time. And so ultimately, once we got a hold of that camera, then it was like, we can film anything, right? And me and my brother and our friends were really into like props and like buying all kinds of stuff. My brother was really into special effects making. And then we all kind of just grew out of it. You know, you hit 12 or 13 and then you kind of branch out into your own thing. My brother really got into politics, but we all like started liking like Quentin Tarantino films, like shitty horror movies, but also watching the classics and educating ourselves really through our curiosity. And that's something that's never left me. It's something I've in common with my brother, many other friends. The filmmaking aspect was, I studied in New York with a coach that I was invited to go study with. And that was a real big eye-opener as the only Canadian that was part of that school.
Wow.
And I got to meet a lot of cool people, most of whom I'm still good friends with these days, and I talk to regularly. But it taught me a lot about what's a producer, what's a director, what's a PA, what does the actor do, who are the writers. I always thought it was kind of like, I was naive when it came to all that stuff, and I didn't realize like how many people were involved. And you know, Leonardo DiCaprio doesn't just come up with his line. Yeah, he'll like ad-lib stuff here and there and might make it into the film because he's got a good relationship with the director, who might also be the writer because the person is like, I don't know, like name one, Christopher Nolan, for instance, right? And Christopher Nolan's movies, his brother writes all the movies. His brother's the writer, he directs, right? So they can change stuff. They don't hire writers outside of the crew to support. So when I realized that as an actor, you're very like focused on, I want the lead role. Like most actors will say, well, I want the lead role. I want to be like this person. And the reality of you wanting to be like the lead role in a film like in being cast like for something like that here or in Montreal or in Toronto is like zero, because everything's cast in the States. So what I realized is I needed the skills and the experience of being on the other side, on the casting side, on the producing side, on the directing side, on the guy that's putting the whole thing together and the vision in order to become even a better actor. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really like acting for film all that much. I think it's fun, but it's boring most of the time. You're sitting around waiting for people to set stuff up, and it takes forever. And ultimately, I, as an actor, if you really like acting, theater is the real challenge, in my opinion. But filmmaking is also like a visual. It's like even more multidisciplinary. It's somewhat less egotistical because it's really much a team effort. And I just needed that. I just needed that experience. So that's why I started doing it. Still have a bunch of ideas. Thankfully, I have a lot of friends that are really cool and knowledgeable about that and that do this for a living, who help me and give me all kinds of advice on gear and putting things together, and especially with my stupid deadlines that I give myself. Yeah. So, instance, when you're talking about Top Hat, for instance, that was a personal challenge for myself because I've been in a few horror flicks that were shot for this thing called Monster Pool here in Ottawa that's celebrated every year. Not this year, but usually at the Mayfair. And then like there's prizes and whatnot. And I've been in a few things, and I get to meet a few people in the region that are part of this, and really talented people. And they had a 2-week deadline to like shoot a short. I think it was 10 days, even less than. They had slots for like 2-minute films. So I had just gotten a new job, and I was really happy. I was feeling, empowered and pumped. Like I was like getting what was coming to me for a while that I was working hard for. And I was like, screw this. I'm going to like film a flick. I'm going to cast the whole thing. And I cast the whole thing in 24 hours through contacts and like a casting call. I paid everybody that was involved, like a decent amount for because I like to pay people. I don't like people to do stuff for free when they're going to be like working with me, because I'm kind of annoying. So I did that, and then we ended up renting a bunch of gear. Like I said, I had some friends helping me, and we were able to put it together. I think it was done 1 or 2 days in advance, and the film was done.
Wow,
we shot in like 5 hours, really quick, really quickly.
Wow,
it was a good experience.
Incredible. So it sounds like you both were really busy with, pursuing your artistic outlets, figuring out your passions and, doing the things that you liked in life. And it sounds like some of that story has kind of crossed over in the sense of when you both met. So that's kind of what I'm curious on, is like, what is that story of how you met, and what do you remember most about that moment?
So I had, like I said, just gotten out of a long-term relationship, moved out of my old place, needed a new place, found an ad through a rental website. Turns out the ad came from Craigslist. So I like to tell people I found Max on Craigslist.
Gross.
But no, it was an ad for a 2-bedroom apartment in Sandy Hill, laundry include like in the unit, which was something I really wanted. So I met with the guy, and he's like, I have someone who's like, they might move in. They're going to be the first choice. If they don't, then I'll let you know. And turns out the guy didn't move in. So I got the room. And then it was also my then roommate's birthday / little bit of a housewarming. And I was just going to like come in, say hi, go hang out with some other friends. But I walked in and I see Max sitting in a Coors Light reclined chair, and I was bringing in Coors Light, and I'm like, this guy's got a really nice nose. We started talking. He taught me how to play the guitar.
Wow.
Yeah, through conversation, we found out that I was the guy that was supposed to move in with her new roommate.
No way.
Yeah. So if I had moved in with him, so that's a terrible move on my part. I like made a commitment to him, and I was like, I'm not sure. He got the place without telling me, and then I wasn't too sure because of money. I was like just brand new on the job market, and I was still living at home at that point. I wanted to move out really, really bad, but if I had accepted, I wouldn't have met Karis. So
Wow.
so we met that night. Yeah.
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 So
She had
Max,
that.
how do you remember that moment then?
Well, I think I was there with my brother. So this was a bit of a celebration because
Right.
that guy, we can say his name is Joe.
Cool.
Joe is an old friend of ours, of me and my brother. And he's a musician. He's an engineer, multidisciplinary guy. He's like world wanderer. I mean, he's like studied in like Spain, Sweden, like you name it. And he's been around. He disappears. And
he looks a little bit like Sean Penn mixed with Liam Neeson.
Very much. Yeah, he's a pretty
Right.
looking guy. And we hadn't seen him in like years. So he was coming back from Spain to be here back in Ottawa permanently for a job. So that was a big celebration because we hadn't seen each other in years. My brother was there. I was there. Some good friends were there. Plus, they were celebrating this new place. So it was like a nice like October night. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a warm October night, and we're having fun. And Karis walked in, and we were all like, "Who's this?" Because we all knew each other. And he was like, "Oh, that's my new roommate." So I was the closest to the door, so I was probably one of the first people to see her.
Wow.
And we shook hands, and I didn't remember her name.
No.
But she was definitely hot.
And so how did the guitar come out though?
Well, this is like a thing that whenever I hang out with Joe, her former roommate and good friend of ours, it always happens. Like I play guitar, and he's kind of like me, has two or three guitars laying around, and then as you have like a few beers and somebody improvises a tom-tom or some type of percussion tool, you start jamming. And then I think between a break, I think at that point we had made enough noise that
I was like, let me try that.
Yeah. And then
okay. So how long did you end up staying before you went? You had to leave to go.
I didn't even go.
You didn't even leave.
No, okay. She had too much fun with us French Canadians.
Wow. So how long did that party go to? Like, how long did you rock for?
I don't remember. It was a
late night.
It was a late night.
It's a late night.
Yeah.
We'll call it that then. We'll call it that. Was a late night. All right. So take us back to like, what was the exchange? I actually want to dive a little bit deeper into that moment. Was there an exchange that day where you're like, hey, let me get your contact and me talk to you later? Like what?
Without going into too much details, that night though, we did say we got to know each other. And the next day, my phone was dead, and I knew I'd run into her again. And I did ask her. I said, "Hey, so should we exchange phone numbers or contact?" But I think we were just like a little too struck by what we just kind of discovered,
right?
And we knew we'd run into each other again sooner or later,
right?
That we didn't exchange phone number. Karis did creep me on Facebook the next day. She did not press add. But we did meet up again because I was hanging out with the same guy.
Right.
Like 3 weeks later. And then we definitely exchanged phone numbers.
Okay. 2 weeks later. So what was the first date? Like, where did you go? And how would you rate that date on a scale of 1 to 10?
Our first date was time.
You had me over.
Yeah. The first time I had you over for dinner. You came over super punctual, which I was very surprised. It's like right on the dot. You came knocking on the door, throwing rocks at the window.
Sometimes
with a boxed salad, and I don't even remember what else we had.
I think it was pasta. Yeah, Karis just. The thing is that because we were just both out of relationships, it wasn't, and I didn't want, and Karis was 22, I was 25. I didn't know where I'd be the next year professionally. I was just starting my career. Karis had had a steady job, and I've never met somebody so independent and different than other people that I met. I mean, I don't think I met many Inuit peoples before Karis. Certainly not somebody that from the Northwest Territories before, but that's beside the point. I didn't want to put like names on stuff.
Yeah,
I think I was the most.
You were very about it, but I was very okay with that. Like,
we didn't
just out of a relationship, meeting you really
Right.
liking you and not
Right.
wanting to.
It was kind of scary that when you like somebody that much and you're like, I think they like me back as much, and you have those moments.
Right.
I mean, we took a while to make things official, if you'd say.
Mhm. We met in October. We were seeing each other not every day, but
Often.
majority of the week. And by April, we were like, okay,
Yeah.
we
went to New York together, and like
even
we
before
traveled
that,
a bit together.
Met in
Nice.
October, went to New York in
Went to Montreal
January,
together.
went to Montreal many times.
Yeah. And so we got to know each other really, 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 really well
Yeah.
before we were like, okay, this like cannot wait anymore. We need to like officialize this. And I think you were the one who pushed for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I knew what I wanted, but I didn't want to force it.
Mm.
And same thing for moving in together. I think I moved in like a few months later after we were official. And then you still gave me, I wanted 1 year in my bachelor pad.
Yeah,
You
because
still gave me my 1 year.
lived outside of your parents' house alone.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was a lot of distance before. I wouldn't say there was emotional distance, but there was like respect for each other,
Right.
in not forcing things too much.
Right. That's
Yeah.
what it seems like. It from your perspective, from what I'm gathering, is that in that beginning, because of your uncertainty of where you might end up in your future, you
Mhm.
wanted to kind of respect, Karis in that sense by taking your time and growing the relationship. But I guess the chemistry didn't allow that to happen. And so on that note, like you were supposed to potentially be leaving that year. What ended up happening there?
I just was always like that type. That's like, well, next year I could be in Montreal. Next year I could be like in Toronto. Next year I
Okay.
could be doing this and could be doing that. And at this point, yeah, like the world of possibilities was opening. I was not used to this at all. I traveled and I'd done a thing in my life already that like I had notoriety for in the region because I was in bands. I was a bass player in a bunch of metal bands, and the community like recognized me. And so like anytime, so I already had kind of like that past, that story, but I was working on rebuilding myself really because I didn't want to do that stuff anymore. That's why I went back to school. I was looking for a professional path. I mean, I was already starting to do some acting stuff at that point. So I was getting more and more in like, well, you can't just be in Ottawa and do this. If you really want to do this, you got to go to New York, got to go to London. You got to go to at least Toronto if you're going to be on if you're going to even be a day player on something. So some realities were sinking in, and it wasn't. I was always kind of the guy that says, I'm going to go places, I'm going to leave, I'm going to move, and there's always something that retained me here in a good way.
So what was that determining factor that you said, let's move in together just months later, right?
Yeah, we moved in together. So we moved into, once I moved out, I had my 1 year, but Karis was at my apartment a lot.
Yeah. So we had our own places, but we pretty much lived together.
Right.
And I had a very small apartment in Centertown. That was great. It was like $800, everything included. It was like pretty much a closet, but it was great. And I had no internet. So if I really wanted internet, I had to go to the cafe next door, which was sweet because it was very freeing. They were like, it was like watching old DVDs and listening to CDs and hanging out and making food.
And I think like moving in together, some people would, pump the brakes. They probably resist. So what made you feel that comfort to make that commitment, to make that step to fully move in together?
So we kind of did things maybe just a little bit backwards. So before Max got his place, I had been living with the roommate for a year already.
Wow.
And then Max got his place. So about half a year into that, we ended up getting a dog.
Yeah, we did get a dog. I forgot to say.
Wow, what?
And he's still here.
He's here.
Wow, same dog.
Yeah, same dog. He's like almost 6 now. He's gonna be 6 in March.
Yeah. So before we even moved together, we got a dog together.
Wow.
And then just brought him to my place, brought him to his place, spent more of the time at your place.
So as soon as I moved out, the first thing I wanted was to get a dog. Like I'd always loved teaching my friends dog stuff. So I was never allowed to have one. So as soon as like I had a place and we picked a breed, I was like, let's get one. And then we did. And then the dog was like moving with us between apartments. The car would be loaded with like the dog bed and food and whatever. So it became a lot, and it just made sense that we move in together. I wanted to finish my 1-year lease of my bachelor pad, which Karis granted me, and that was awesome that she didn't like put up. There was no scene, and she understood where I was coming from. We had that conversation, and when the lease came up, it was like, let's get an apartment together. And that was getting that first place together was quite an experience because it was a shitty landlord, shitty apartment, and we had to go through a lot in that 1 year together, and it kind of tightened things up too.
So would you say, like, is the dog was it a building block for your relationship?
We were both very excited to get a dog. I always grew up with animals, so being in a steady job, new place on my own that can allow animals, I was like, heck yeah, I really want a cat. I want a cat. I almost convinced him to get a cat, and he became allergic.
I didn't become allergic. I'm allergic since I was 25. I didn't just become allergic like that. How convenient.
Became allergic. Then we decided on a dog. Was that a building block?
I'd say so. Like, it's definitely another experience, right? You're taking care of something, you're splitting bills, like health bills for something. Yeah, it was definitely an experience. I mean, especially when you have anybody that's listening that has a dog, you know, like when you have a puppy, it's like
they get messy.
Yeah, it gets messy real quick, and you have to work on discipline and teaching him stuff, or stuff. Yeah, he, she, they. Yeah.
Right. Interesting. And you both have fairly recently got engaged. So I'm curious, please share with us the proposal story. Who proposed, first of all? And like, how did that go? How was the proposal?
Max proposed.
Cool.
I proposed to him that first few months he had his place. I was like, so in love. I made him a little ring out of paper.
Wow.
Will you marry me? And he grabbed it, crumpled it up, and threw it in the garbage.
No
He's like,
way.
you're gonna do that. Give me a real ring.
Any woman would do that too. Come on.
Then I joked, and then he eventually said, no, if I'm gonna do it, I want to be the one to ask. And then years later, last
2019.
January 2019, he said he got me a gift, and it was being delivered to his parents' place. And we usually get our stuff delivered there because we don't want porch thieves, and they're home retired, so they can sign for packages anyways. So him sending a gift there didn't throw me off. He took me for dinner on the day after my birthday, and he said that the package arrived that day.
The day of your birthday, I had a show. That's why I couldn't. I was doing a play.
He was doing a play. So he said the package arrived that day after my birthday, and he's like, I really want to go get it. I'll get it before we go to dinner, and then we can go, and I'll give it to you. And I'm like, no, we can just wait till we go there for dinner. And he's like, no, I really want it. So we went for dinner. I forgot about it. We came back home in our little cocktail lounge area, had a last drink of the night, and he's like, oh, your gift is in the car. Stay here, cover your eyes. And so I'm sitting there with my eyes covered. He goes outside, comes back in, and I'm like thinking, did he get me another dog? That was my wish in that moment. So he came in, and I hear him get down onto the floor.
I got down.
He got down. And then I hear this little spring.
Could have been
sounds like something opening. And then I see this ring, and I'm like, this is the ring. It's very, very large. So I thought it was fake until I saw an inscription on the inside, which it's just one word, righteous. And that's when I knew it was a real thing. And he said to me, what'd you say?
So you ready to do this?
And I said,
Wow. So are you ready to do this?
Yeah, that's a very me thing to do. Yeah. And Karis likes to be unique too. So we did it in the comfort of our home. I had a plan, a meticulous plan to do it on top of the Empire State. However, that didn't pan out and the timing didn't work.
Yes.
And it would have been way too suspicious and you would have known right away. And I think when I was drunk one time, I told you about that plan.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
How did that feel, Karis, to open your eyes, see that ring, hear the proposal? How did that feel?
It felt kind of surreal in that moment. I know everyone always says that, but it's like I wasn't expecting it.
Right.
We've been together almost 6 years at that point, and like I know we are gonna spend the rest of our lives together. So this is just a nice celebration to begin. And
it's a legal contract, Karis. You got to be more committed than that.
Yeah, I like you so much. I want a contract.
Contract you.
So follow-up question to that, like, how did you know that you were the one? Like, I'm kind of asking that question to you both. Like, how did you decide that, you know, this is the person I want to spend the rest of my lives together? And keep in mind, like, maybe there's other couples who are on the verge of asking a proposal or making a proposal. Like, how could you help them kind of determine that moment? Like, this is the one, this helped me make that decision.
I think for me, you'll see it in the overall theme of tonight, is the fact that he supports me through so many things, not just like saying, yeah, you can do it, you're so good. But I love hearing how good I'm doing, by the way.
Positive reinforcement.
Positive reinforcement. Yeah. But also just like if I'm having a hard day or if I'm feeling anxious about anything or having even a hard time communicating, most of the time he's very understanding and helpful and there for me.
Mm-hmm.
Since the beginning.
Amazing.
I think for me, well, it's kind of an easy answer because I've never wanted to get married. So like,
and he told me that when we started seeing each other.
I was very notorious. Like, I'm a very opinionated person. My opinions and ideas of things change through time. And I've learned to not be so rigid and cold about certain things that I think are very, very true. Because only a Sith deals in absolutes, obviously. But for me, I'd never really thought about getting married. In fact, even my parents knew that. Like, it was very, very clear. It was like that was the running gag in my family. It was like, yeah, Max is gonna have like 5 kids from 5 different women. And anyways, I was also supposed to be a used car salesman, according to my father. So, you know,
grain of salt.
Yeah. But yeah, I didn't want. That was the first time I ever really, like, I met Karis. It was pretty overwhelmingly awesome. Almost like too much of a fairy tale. Not like in a way that's like princesses and the glamour and all that. It's just the way things kind of stacked on top of another and reactions. I was guilty of looking for strong opposites for a very, very long time in a partner. I was also very guilty of not going for people or things that for friendships, relationships, things that I wanted. I was not used to vocalizing that and going for it. I just kind of took things as they came to me. Some of it was conscious, some of it was subconscious. But when I met Karis, it just felt right. It was easier to talk about myself. It was easier to talk about the future. It was easier to talk about the past. And she didn't judge me for it. And I was able to be honest. And there was obviously a lot that I needed to get out and vocalize instead of just keeping it in the back of my head for a very, very long time. And I just don't find that you just reach that level or have that level of engagement with someone, no pun intended, when it's just like a fuck friend, right? Or just like somebody who's a friend of a friend who's like, you're at a party and you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess we should like hook up, or you're like the person I met at the bar who I bought a shot because I thought you were cute. And there's nothing wrong with those stories, but it has to be more than that. And as you grow, like I'm in my 30s now, I'm super excited about the next 10 years. I'm not looking back on my 20s being like, oh, I wish like I partied harder. I wish I did all these things. I wish I went to Bali and like, I don't know, like you name it. Like, I wish I had more followers on Instagram, yeah, stuff like that. That I'm not saying that you need that to find somebody special, but I'm a bit of a traditionalist when it comes to that. And I did feel that that was the next step and I wanted to take it. And I know that she knows that me asking her to marry me is a big commitment for me because she knows my stance on it. So it's that represents a change and an evolution in the way that I think and perceive a relationship.
It's a great perspective. So when you said it felt right, did it feel right from the beginning, or did that right feeling kind of grow as your relationship grew?
I just spoke
both.
a bunch.
I would say for me, I knew I wanted to spend every minute I could with him, and the more time we spent together, the more time I wanted to spend with him. Yeah,
it was scary to me. It was scary.
Because like you like something so much, you don't want to lose that thing.
But it's not even, it wasn't like, I like you so much, I'm going to strangle you, I need to be around you all the time. It's just, it's the experiences that you do and you surprise each other. Like when we met each other and we went to New York that January after your birthday, we took our first trip together. Yeah. We weren't even official together. I hadn't been out of the country in like 5 years. And I hadn't flown in like 8 years. Wow. So whereas Karis was used to flying because she went back and forth with the territories quite a bit, and you were like a world traveler, youth ambassador for the territories and all that. Respect. But so there's all kinds of things she was teaching me as a young 22-year-old, as me as like a 25-year-old. Okay, the age thing is a thing I need to talk about. That when we met, I thought the age thing was like a big deal because I always dated girls that were like my age, maybe slightly younger or older. Most of the time. To me, a 3-year gap, which in retrospect is ridiculous, now that she's 29 and I'm 32, was like a big deal. I was like, she's 22. Like, I don't want to like fuck up her 20s. I don't want to like, I don't want to like lie to her. I don't want to like, she's so like, you weren't pure, but you were different than other people that I met. You weren't like a typical Valley girl, and you were honest with me. And it's hard to find honesty in those first few moments. And when you meet people in whether it be a first date, because people are selling. They're selling themselves because they want something, right? They could be genuinely into you, and you don't want to ask somebody when you meet someone. I mean, maybe not. I don't know how things work nowadays, like with Tinder, and like I don't understand that stuff. But like, how do you ask somebody when you meet them? Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years, and would it be with someone like me? You can't ask that question. You have to like work. Right? You have to every date has to be different. Every time you can't Netflix and chill. Like you got to find things that are creative and that are fun and like build experiences and bonding experiences. And that was the thing that remember the first year I was like, no, we're not watching a movie.
Yeah. You hated watching
movies. Not watching movies. We had to do stuff. We had to go out. We had to like meet with people. We had to not just meet with people, but we had to like
go play pool or
like get out of the house, do interesting things. Like I knew the region really, really well because so I got to show her all kinds of stuff that the Gatineau side and the Ottawa side have. And then if you're bored, you can go to Montreal or you go to Toronto. And then on top of the things we were doing, there's opportunities to travel together and see each other, so other friends and circles and communities and whatnot. And it just kept building.
It's fascinating. Did you both ever have that conversation of, what does the next 5 years look like? Was that a specific conversation that you had at some point, or was that kind of just always in the back of the mind and figured, you know what, I like where this relationship currently is, where things are going, and it just kind of manifested and blossomed into what it is now? Because Max, you kind of said how you didn't want to mess up her 20s, but it's completely the opposite of that from what it seems, right? Like it's a beautiful journey. So was that conversation, was it an intentional conversation that you had to have, or was it just something that was subliminal through the whole relationship?
If it was out in the open, I didn't notice it. It was more subliminal to me.
Yeah.
We were just hanging out, enjoying each other's company, respecting each other's boundaries, but still trying to push each other. Like, we genuinely love seeing each other succeed. Like, if he's out doing a project, and I'm like, yeah, number one fan.
Yeah, stressful days at work. For us, it's very much combining a full-time career with everything else, right? So we're working, there's a lot of in between, but after work doesn't end there. Like, because we want to keep doing the things we're doing. So that puts a lot of stress on people. It means being tired. It means all kinds of things. And sometimes I'm not saying we're working 24 hours like every day to build ourselves, and it comes naturally and we're kind of used to it. But about your question though, the 5-year thing, I don't think we ever really had a conversation.
Not specifically. We
kind of had to have a conversation that's similar to this recently when the job in Yellowknife opened up, and
right,
it was a very big opportunity, and it was like, okay, well, given the current context with the pandemic and how things are in NWT as opposed to here, and in comparison to how things are in Nunavut right now, that was a conversation we had. We're like, okay, well, we live in this neighborhood that we really love. We definitely cannot afford buying a house here. Where are our careers going? Where are things going right now? Could we do this for the next 2, 3, 4 years, and then come back? And we had kind of that conversation about we would like to go somewhere where it's kind of normal, like in Yellowknife, where there's less cases. And instead of just being stuck in our apartment 90% of the time, in the city.
Plus, we'd be closer to my family. Like, my cousins, uncles, and my brother are still up in Inuvik. My sister's in northern Alberta. When I told her we were moving, her first message was, "You'd only be a 12-hour drive away."
Yeah, no big deal. And we got nephews and nieces over there too.
Nice.
So, and for me, it's like I wouldn't mind having kids over there.
Wow.
And we already talked about this.
Wow.
So not like I'm doing this live. We talk about, of course, we talk about stuff, things, but
communication is clearly important.
Very much.
Yeah.
We're very open. If I'm having I'm usually the one who wants to say all of my thoughts, how I'm feeling. I need to clarify things a lot. But if I'm having a bad communication day, we sometimes even just talk through text in other rooms where we can't cut each other off.
Yeah, I like confrontation.
That's interesting.
But I do that for a living, so I have to and COVID is tough for that, because when I'm at the office and I'm doing the work, or I'm meeting with people, I'm doing my work, like from one place to another, it's very upbeat. And when I'm home, right?
Right.
And with this, you should see our apartment. It's not a shoebox, but it's pretty much a shoebox.
My desk is there, his desk is there.
We now work literally like an L. Like, I work here, she's here. And so there's no disassociation between work and home life.
Oh, I see.
Right. So that's you need that separation, I think, in your daily life. Like, long term, I don't think it would be great. Like, it's good for us to have a break from each other for 8 hours and go live our lives out there, and then talk to each other, and what happened today. But we've been able to coexist through this whole thing. It's actually, we've adapted pretty well, but that's because we know each other so damn well.
Right. I think that's an amazing point to make. I've never actually stopped to think about that, but you're reminding me where these COVID times are a bit of a challenge in some relationships, where the norm has been 8 hours away from your partner, and that's been a consistent. And then with COVID, that might be the first time they're spending that much time with each other. And so it can definitely change the dynamics of the relationship. So in saying that, what has been a difficult situation that you both may have had to overcome? And then how did you get through it? So I posed that question in a way where if you are experiencing disagreements, how do you overcome those disagreements?
Usually there's a fight, and then it turns into either calming down and re-clarifying things, or like I said earlier, we just need to text each other what we're feeling and needing to communicate. At least that's how it's been lately.
Yeah. That's how it definitely lately, because there's not that separation.
Yeah.
Right. And there's nowhere to go. Right. Really overcoming, there's all kinds of things we had to overcome. I wouldn't say we've had, just like any human beings, there's family stuff that gets, thrown in the mix. There's situational stuff, career related, stressful situations that can occur, disappointments, expectations not met, things like that happen. And if it affects her, it's going to affect me, because we talk about stuff and we live together. So, and if it affects me, it's going to affect her as well. But as much as there are things that you overcome, you also have to celebrate the things that do work out, and the things and the unexpected, and all these other things that kind of make up why you're still in this game, and things that you look forward to, right? There's all kinds of things. There's not really specific that comes to mind.
Yeah, not a specific obstacle.
But we've had our fair amount of disagreements, a fair amount of obstacles. Whether it be financial, situational, personal, but at the end of the day, and this is what you and I talk about a lot, is we're like a team, right? You support each other. You have to have those arguments. You have to have those fights, especially since Karis and I have very much different upbringings and different perspectives,
and different communication styles.
Yeah.
So speaking on that, I think that's a great transition. How does culture play a role in your relationship?
I was thinking about this question earlier. So I moved to Ottawa when I was 19, and being up in Inuvik, like I said earlier, I moved back up when I was about 6. So my relatives didn't really know I existed, being born outside of the territory, growing up outside of the territory for such a long time. So if I'd go to family functions, they'd be like, "Oh, are you the babysitter?" or "Who are you?" And they didn't know who I was, so I wasn't fully connected. But because meeting Max and him not knowing a lot about my culture, Inuit culture, it has helped me to also fully explore and find out more of my own culture. So being in a relationship with him has definitely helped me with my culture.
Wow.
I'm somebody who asks a lot of questions.
He does ask a lot of
questions. I'm very curious. I think it comes from my family. I don't know, my culture, I guess my upbringing is definitely French Canadian. My mom's from Maniwaki and my dad's from Montreal, and they kind of came here for work in the 80s and settled here and built their family here. So I was always kind of from everywhere at the same time. I had my family and relatives in Maniwaki, and I had my friends and family in Montreal, and we were the only ones here.
Wow.
So, and then I had my school friends, but school friends that never really meant much to me. It was more I was always on my own path. And then I found, like I told you, music and whatever, and I found my different communities. So that's my culture, and that's how I learned to speak English. I played in bands. I didn't speak English till I was 18. I played in bands, and all the dudes were Anglophone, and I could write in English, I could read in English, but my ESL spoken English wasn't great. And they were a lot older than a lot. I was 16, 15. They were 19, so they could buy me beer or whatever. So we get shit faced, and they tell me to go fuck myself and whatnot. And I had to learn how to defend myself. And that's kind of how I learned social skills in English. But what I'm trying to say is I kind of built my own culture. My life has been in Ottawa for a very long time, but it's also in different places. So to me, I can relate to what Karis is talking about. Like, I'm not being from like, everyone's from somewhere, but it's like who you are, where your communities are, where your values lay is not just reflected in your culture, but it's reflected in the choices, in the decisions that you make. If that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
So Karis and I, being from obviously different, geographically distinct cultures, it's kind of cool. It kind of keeps the spice between us because it's different, right? And I love to hear all about it. I'm very excited about the territories because I'm going to go hunting with your brother and your uncle. It's going to be super cool. But I've always thrived on lived experiences and doing things that are outside of my comfort zone and are scary. And I always feel like I grow through them. So I love the fact that we're not from the same spot. Yeah.
That's amazing. So would you say that the difference in culture, being able to explore that with each other is kind of what brings you together a little bit? It brings you closer together, that exploration of each other's culture and backgrounds and upbringings. It's kind of something that, like you said, keeps it spicy in the relationship.
I don't know how else to put it.
I think that's really cool. So as we kind of transition to the closing here, just a few more questions. What does love mean to you?
You go first.
Oh God, I got a riff.
Yeah.
Because love, LOVE, means a lot of different things. Because you can love. I think love means commitment. I think love means work. Love means an exchange, but not of money. It's like reciprocal.
Reciprocity.
Yes, you got it.
ESL, man. ESL.
Yeah, you got it. That's right. So that I like to stress the word commitment because I love many people. I love more than I should say that I do because I'm a bit of a hater too. But I do the real deep down part of me is a lover, and I think everything that you do, that you choose to do, that most people do in their daily lives is based on love, and they may not even realize it. When it comes to a relationship, but love really for me means that. It means commitment, it means trust, it means honesty, it means being there through the good times, through the bad times, and being committed to a long-term game, long-term adventure. There's probably a lot more, but on the spot, I can't really put it in any other.
That's cool.
That's pretty good already.
All right.
I shouldn't have let you go first. You said it all.
Yes.
Love is commitment. Love is caring. I'm trying not to say too much because we are writing our vows right now. Not at this minute, but love is in our vows, and don't want to give anything away too much, but
we're getting married on the 24th.
Holy
secretly. Yeah.
Wow.
Somewhat secretly. Sorry.
Love is caring. That's where my mind is right now. Caring, not being careful, but caring about everything. Feelings, putting food in your belly, caring about if you've had enough sleep, caring if you snore too much. Yeah.
Nice. Appreciate that. And so I'm going to premise this next question by providing somewhat of a definition, but feel free to articulate it however you'd like to. But if a power couple means a healthy couple, what does being a power couple mean to you?
So we get described as a power couple a lot.
We do.
We do.
We're like, many people tell us, you guys are couple goals.
It's like, when I get in a relationship, I want it to be like that.
Yeah.
I want that. But it's work, man. It's work. It's work and commitment. It's like anything, right?
Communication, support,
and it's
commitment.
Tough. Yeah. And it's tough and it hurts. And sometimes you're going to be proven wrong. So you got to set your ego aside, which is a problem for me all the time. But you know, at the end of the day, that it's for the better. A power couple. If a power couple means that like you have people that are like, you got the stars that are supposedly power couples, like, oh, because the press would think it would be like a good thing or something. If like this person like would sell tabloids and it would make for hot pictures, all that. But if you mean power couple in the sense that we each have their own respective careers and then extracurriculars that we parts of our careers that we do that don't necessarily intersect, but sometimes do, we support each other through it. Sure. But that's just, I think, both in our nature to do that stuff. I think if I wasn't around, Karis would, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily, you'd still be doing, like, I'd still be at least hoping that I do some of the stuff that I do, but I don't think I'd be as far as I am now.
Wow.
That's for
That's
sure.
an interesting point to make, man.
Yeah, I'd probably be struggling with like the very, like, you know, when you take a step forward and one step back and you're like stuck in that limbo, I'd probably be stuck there. Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of good intentions, but very like few actions. Yeah, you need somebody who like puts you in your place and calls your bullshit, right?
Okay. Karis, you would just go ditto?
Yeah.
I think I'd love to reflect on that, because I think, Max, when you said, you know, it's work and it sometimes can hurt, but it sounds like it's the commitment that allows you to pull through those difficult times. And that's kind of what that power element of a couple needs in order for it to work. And just to kind of paraphrase a little bit, being able to support each other depending on the different paths you're on, that support is really helpful. And I think it strengthens each other, strengthens your own path, and it strengthens each other as a couple. So I think that's a really important element when we're talking about power couples, is, of course, being able to acknowledge that each person has their own path, but knowing that you're supporting each other on that path, and at times those paths intersect. And that's how you kind of really build that strength amongst each other, I think is fascinating.
Yeah.
So I got 2 more closing questions.
Sure.
Okay.
What advice would you give to a new couple?
It's okay if you fight. But then my second piece of advice on that would just be, you're not fighting to just fight. Sometimes communicating your ideas can get heated, and it's okay.
To build on that, I totally agree with everything Karis just said. Not that I always agree with Karis.
And it's not like we always fight, but
yeah, it sounds like we fight all the time. Well, I mean, like, we're human beings. Like, it's
right.
Is it fight, flight, or fuck? Those 3 things. You're either fleeing.
First time I heard that, Max. That's
you're either wanting to get away in a conversation. You're either wanting to run away. You're either fighting with somebody or fighting for something, or you're fucking. And that can be interpreted in all kinds of ways. That's like, anyways, I'm not going to go too far into that philosophical thing. But if I was to give an advice, that one thing that I really like that we still do, and we do maybe, because you were saying, oh, you see pictures of us and stuff online, but
your
like
chemistry is like prominent.
Thank you. But those are pictures, right? Like those are videos, and those are like, there's something definitely that whenever we work together, we're like, and we have the right photographers that capture stuff, and it's not just one photographer, there's many of them. And thank you for saying that you're able to see that energy. I think you have to be, in order to be genuine as possible, I'd say you have to take your time. And I know it's like, I've been guilty of it in the past, and I've gotten hurt because I'm an idiot that I have to learn. It's a game, you know, like relationships are a game. A lot of people treat it like disposable things. And as long as you always like have one person, like a disproportion in terms of how people see things. And that's why it's so hard in the beginnings. It's like one person will be like, oh, I want you because you're like ex's boyfriend of this person, right? Like, whatever the relationship is, and I thought you were cute and I want to make sure, I want to get back at this
For the
person.
wrong reasons, mostly.
Yeah. And then the
Yeah.
other person might be like, well, I just like, I'm looking for someone temporarily while I figure my shit out. Or I want to lean on someone and you're it, right? Because you're available, or you took that shot with me at that bar that one night. Doesn't matter. Or you have work experience that I want to suck out of you in order to be able to get into your field, right? Those are all kinds of reasons that people get into relationships. So I would say take your time, get to know people. And I think we did that, and I was very insistent on it, and you were cool with it, and it worked for you. So we fought the urge to like jump into things too quickly.
Right.
So that's one thing. Another advice that I would give to people. Oh yeah. Like anything that's like super external, that like, for instance, social media, like people like overpost about the relationship online, like beware of people that like look too perfect. That's not the real world.
Don't do it for the gram.
Yeah, don't do it for the gram. It's like, this is my new boyfriend, click, like, look how ripped we are, and like all that stuff, and like posting every day, like, he is so hot or she is so hot, like, love you, babes, loves you, love you. Like, I'm also big on love you, like love as a word.
It's a big word.
It's a big word. Like, I don't throw that around just as a comfort thing. I've learned to say it when I mean it 100%. I need to say it. And I know, like, for you, it's not for you, but we've had the conversations about that. And for some people, it's a little hard to understand. That's not a really piece of advice, it's just a reality for me. I don't say love someone like just like that. It really means something to me. And it doesn't come out just because you're leaving or we're separating, and so you have to go somewhere and I have to go somewhere else, and then I have to be like, I love you.
Yeah, it's not like you say it before I go to the grocery store.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So because it loses meaning, I find that if you say it all the time, there's other ways of showing affection than just saying the big like I love you thing. That's me personally. But yeah, if I was to sum things up, it's like, take your time and make something of your own, like create your own inside jokes. Like, you don't need the external validation coming from like social media or your friends to justify what you're building and get like, do we look good, or like, do we like, it doesn't really matter.
You don't need the approval from anybody.
Yeah. And for the record, I don't really see much of that on social media, like from our community or our friends, but I know that it's a thing, and I see it and it kind of grosses me out. So that's what I'm saying.
So preserve, in your specific case, you preserve the exchange of saying I love you for moments that you genuinely feel a resonant of that emotion, and then you communicate it clearly. But you don't just nonchalantly communicate, I love you, babe, I'll see you later, and you just throw that out. For you preserve that word so that when you do say it, you both kind of know that it means something a lot more than your regular day-to-day scenario.
Yeah.
Wow.
Will I regret this later on in life? Maybe.
I mean, it's not like you don't show affection or show love.
There's other ways of.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's just me.
But we're already super affectionate people anyway.
Right.
Just having that one little extra step above of love it's like, okay, I see how you're feeling right now.
And we were both raised with a lot of affection. Our parents.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So my last question for you is, what are your plans for the future, both individually and as a couple? I mean, you've shared some of that, but it's a closing question to kind of, foresight into the future.
Well, Max already said we're getting married on the 24th.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then pretty much right after that, we're moving up to the Northwest Territories.
Right.
And then individually, I plan on doing a lot more in my artistic side of life. I've already been ramping up some clientele and contacts. I just recently, I guess I can say it now, I participated, didn't win, in a competition with the Canadian Mint for a coin design.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool.
Like they sought her out.
Yeah, they
Like
reached
were
out
like,
to me.
Wow.
Thought they were spam at first, and
Yeah,
they weren't.
yeah, they're super interested in you.
Yeah. So yeah, I plan on doing a lot more art
Nice.
in general.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, with the new job ahead, it's going to be there's a bit of a learning curve, but also it's going to give me time to write a lot more. So I'm really interested in writing more. I'm still going to be doing like acting, like filmmaking, and all that work is definitely something like it's a work of a lifetime, right? It's going to go up like that, up and down, up and down. I definitely am way too passionate to stop doing anything I'm doing because I'm in Yellowknife. There's all kinds of things that can be done out of Yellowknife, and it's a smaller community, so there's even more room for like showing what you do and building and creating some foundations over there as well.
Mhm.
It'll give us and you know, it's a hub, so it's just another hub in comparison to Ottawa.
Yeah.
So more projects for sure. I've been painting a lot more lately too.
Mhm.
So just more of that. Yeah, really.
Nice.
It's more of it. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you both for joining us here on the Power Couple podcast. It's so inspiring to hear your journey. And I'm really thankful that you were able to share a lot of those, you know, intimate details. And so thank you both for joining us. And congratulations to all of your success, to your getting married, your engagement, and all of that. It's amazing. And hopefully we'll cross paths possibly before you go, maybe not, but I wish you both all the best in your future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This was fun. Looking forward to your success too.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Wash day, and we'll talk soon.
All right.
Ciao.
Bye.
See ya.